Hello and welcome. I'm so glad you're here, my beautiful seekers. Let's cleanse the space with some beautiful sound. My name is Claire. I'm happy and grateful to present this reading to you today. I'm using all my Claire senses. Bring this reading to you. Now, before we get into your reading, we're going to do a deep dive into this collective right now, using the tools of tarot and technology. Using a blend together, these beautiful energies bring you the knowledge that you need to hear today. Of course, this is a timeless reading, but if this reading found you, we're going to consider that the first synchronicity and revelation, as everything in the universe happens for a reason. It is our understanding and integration of certain undeniable primordial truths, as revealed through the tools of oracle cards, archetype of the tarot, runes, other forms of knowledge. So without further delay, let's see what it is. What it is. Here is the reading. We're going to go through each of these one by one, clarify, and also we're going to discuss them from the context of the Hermetic Tarot. So in addition to the cards on the screen that you see, I've pulled the same cards with the Hermetic Tarot, which uses ancient symbolism to really take a deep dive into the meaning of what you need to hear today in this timeless reading. Now, this reading, the top of the reading, we're looking at the Hermit card. And the Hermit has some great significant meanings. So let's look at this together. Essentially, it symbolizes solitude, wisdom gained through long experience, a wise teacher or mentor, one who stands apart from the crowd, guidance from a higher source or more experienced person. So my commentary is this represents each of the collective, each member as the individual, yet representing the archetype of the hermit is somebody who's learned the hard way. I call it the school of hard knocks. So it could be you or maybe somebody represented in your life who is that wise teacher or mentor. But standing apart from the crowd is not easy. Sometimes when people think about a hermit, they think about loneliness. And in order to tap into that guidance from a higher source, as represented by the lantern, then it requires that deep introspection and often solitude. And there's a difference between solitude and loneliness. So the hermit represents the solitude of gaining that wisdom, looking, as they say, within, using the lantern as the spark of light, which is also representing the spark of God within each and every one of us. And that is what the hermit is, holding up the lantern high enough that others can see the light, and is also intently meditating on the light and appears to be looking in with those deep robes and completely immersed in that experience of introspection. So if you find yourself in that mode today of deep introspection, feeling the solitude, and in order to tap into those higher sources of messages, then know you are in the right place. So as we look at the overall reading, one thing that jumps out is out of the 5 cards, 3 of these are major arcana. And so we're going to read this like a spiral. The next card here in the sequence being the High Priestess. And as we look over at the card and the meaning of the High Priestess, what we'll see is this position in the reading is a waning influence, meaning as we're also in a waning moon today, the cycle is decreasing. It was previously stronger, now it's weakening as we go through the waning influence of the moon. Obstacles are already overcome, changes which have occurred in the past. So we're kind of looking from the Hermit to the High Priestess is 2 very powerful cards of intuition, spiritual, occult knowledge, psychic impressions, significant dreams, wise counsel, again, guidance from a higher source, and advice from an intuitive person. Both of those cards, the Hermit and the High Priestess, are very compatible. And intuition, when you tap into intuition, it reminds me of this prayer: God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And the Serenity Prayer, as it's known, is really, without saying it, indicating the intuition, trusting one's intuition, trusting the wisdom to know the difference. The wisdom is something that often people associate with experience and knowledge and learning from the past, mistakes, and also from ancient occult knowledge, as we're doing now, using these tools of technology, of ancient sacred knowledge, spiritual occult knowledge, psychic impressions, spiritual dreams. So pay attention to your dreams as well. You will find that if you remember your dreams, you will get wise counsel from your dreams. And dreams are often represented as from the higher source. So people have historically, and even in ancient times, the Oracle of Delphi hired people to interpret dreams and gave significant weight and influence as messages from God, basically, and advice from an intuitive person. If you feel you can't tap into your intuition, I'm offering private readings, so check the description box and I'd be happy to give you a private reading using all of these great tools of technology. So use your intuition on that and trust what you feel guided to do. But what I love about the technology of the computer spread, even though I will also do deep dive using the physical cards, they can't be influenced by maybe my individual mood. It's set by the intention. This was the collective reading, and so therefore you might question, were the cards shuffled or was it random? Well, this is really a random card generator, so it's, yes, random, and it's meant for this collective interpretation. So I find that reassuring in my own way. Hopefully you do too. And so using that in personal readings as well will give the same degree of accuracy. Oh, there's my puppy. He was sleeping, but something just woke him up. Anyway, moving on to the third card here, we're looking at this next position meaning, which is the hidden or unconscious influence. So even though we had 2 major arcana cards, the Hermit and the High Priestess, now we're moving into the Five of Swords. And the Five of Swords has long been, just look at the card, it looks very bleak, and there's defeat in the air, unfairness, conflict, gossip. Oh, there's always gossip, isn't there? Needless strife. So things that happen that didn't have to happen. The wrong person prevails through dubious means. Wrong place at the wrong time sometimes is just what happens. And power struggles, bitter words, and accusations. So if you've had that in a dynamic with others, because there's, 2 other people in the card that are clearly visible, and there's 5 swords with 2 of them in his hand and one stuck in the ground and two laying down. So that adds up to, monumental defeat for those individuals walking away, even though they felt maybe there was some unfairness and, in the conflict. And that happens in everyday life, often in home and workplace and family dynamics. You might be encountering that there's hidden influence. So maybe people are gossiping about you behind your back at work. Maybe there are obstacles in your way that people are making things harder than it needs to be in a work setting or group setting, or even within your own family if they're talking about you and making you feel, left out with the hermit and maybe isolated from other family or group, then, that might feel like the wrong people are getting away with it. But, you have to go back to the high priestess and, essentially the integration, trusting your intuition to know what's right and what's wrong and to stay out of, the battle. Essentially, the people walking away laid down their swords. So the battle is over. And the clouds are clearing in the air. The wind is blowing away the gray clouds, and, the water is going to be still and things will be looking good again, which is, kind of represented as we go to the fourth position in the spread. We have the Two of Wands. Now, this is what's emerging, the emerging influence, which is really interesting because the image on the card kind of represents something emerging. The figure in the card is looking ahead, holding the world in their hand, and on a vast horizon, it just evokes this image of what's coming, as my ship come in, the emerging influence. So no better perfect card than the Two of Wands. There's cooperation. Maybe the help and guidance you need is from a more experienced person. Maybe that hermit is somebody that could help you. If it's not you yourself offering your own guidance and wisdom, maybe a business partnership would be appropriate as the emerging influence. And a new affiliation, if that's often with work, with who we associate with and who we don't associate with. Maybe, you reevaluating something that would bring new affiliations, which will help each party to succeed. Sometimes, the people you're around could be the crabs in the barrel effect. So this person has their back on what's behind them, really looking ahead. In the top of this, what looks like a castle tower with the images of the roses embedded in the pillar, but the two vibrant wands and the colorful world is showing that cooperative effort is needed now. Cooperative effort. So that's asking us, how can we be more cooperative in our day-to-day and understanding of the best way to move forward and taking the experiences of the past and integrating them in a wholesome way that could bring a positive outcome in our future. So what it brings us to last in the synthesis of all this is this draws together all the other four influences. I mean, it makes sense. You had the hermit, the high priestess, after some struggle and strife with the swords and 5 people maybe combating and fighting against your thoughts and ideas and prevailing and looking ahead going, well, how can I integrate all of what I learned from that? Well, the emperor takes the cake on that, because as the synthesis of all the other influence drawn together, the emperor, it just makes sense. You couldn't even, these cards are randomly generated, but to me, in my mind, that's why I call this channel Lady Astro-Logic. It makes sense. It's logical. There's a progression. And this emperor in particular, he's talking about logic and order and leadership. He's talking about Astro-Logic, Lady Astro-Logic. That's me, by the way. I am Lady Astro-Logic, and I require logic and order in my life, because this isn't random. This isn't there's no coincidence. It's a synchronicity. There's mathematics involved, power maintained through rigid control. That's just like the universe, the astronomical influences that are all reflected in each of these cards. Just like the emperor, you see the 2 ram's heads very clearly on the arm of his throne where his hands are resting with that large wand, which is evocative of ancient Egypt, and then 2 more ram's heads on the sides of the back of his throne, and the large crown on his head, with just the armor poking through. The red robes evokes a symbol of power and authority of this emperor, and you do not doubt that he is logical, a leader with representing power and maintains through rigid control. So maybe there's some type of control mechanism in your life, whether it be a person or a place or an institution or a workplace or something that you feel beholden to. Parental authority, it could be. If so, one must either play by their rules or leave the situation. I mean, how many times have you heard that saying growing up? Ideas that the young people have to live by the rules of the parents if they want to stay under their roof, right? That seems a universal archetype, but it doesn't have to be parental authority. I mean, there's all types of authority: governmental authority and moral authority, and church authority. So this is all wrapped up. But what I love about the emperor, it's not particularly religious, even though the hermit and the high priestess both represent that inner authority. See, the inner authority taken outward and manifested with, again, the ram's head bringing in that Aries into the equation of this emperor, which, this as the synthesis, it's such a powerful card. It just takes me into the next level of our reading, which I prepared using the emperor as the basis. But let's take a look back at the spread using the Hermetic Tarot, because this emperor really has some power and authority. These cards are very detailed with regards to the graphics on each one. But let me pull the emperor. He's in the middle here. And we could do this because Son of the Morning is the title. Again, you got the Aries on there, ram's head. And you've got the figure, looks like wearing the fish scales, standing on like a wasp emblem, and it's not a bee, I don't think. It could be a bee, but there's the cross symbol there, more ram's head. He's holding a type of wand. Looks like a black hole coming out. This Hermetic Tarot is pretty esoteric if you look at the image. So we're going to kind of contrast those two. It's basically the figure is, in charge, and there's no doubt about that. But let's get some more in-depth meaning as we break this down. Over here. Pulling up the book. Okay.